Life Stories with Kevin Fernihough.
Hi, my name is Vanessa. I was born in 1976.
People living in Cumbria talking about their life.
We had family holidays abroad. We went to Spain a couple of times, Greece, Scotland a lot of the time.
The highs and the lows.
Gran spoilt us rotten. The way that she lived was totally different to how we lived in Whitehaven. As soon as the sun came up, the kitchen door was open and that was us out.
From birth to present.
Whether it was windy, whether it was freezing, we had to get out and get some fresh air and we loved it.
Life Stories on BBC Radio Cumbria.
This is my story.
Life Stories here on BBC Radio Cumbria. My storyteller this week, a lass from out west of the county, Vanessa Cowan. Let's just talk a little about your school years academically. Was it a good time for you in the classroom or not?
I loved juniors and infants school, and then when I got to secondary school, not so much. But my passion was art and design. I was always drawing, always painting. So that was a class that I really loved and couldn't wait to do. And then when it came to GCSEs, I did really well in art and decided to take it as an A-level, where I did textiles and ceramics as well. And then I went on to go to art college for a year.
It's interesting, we can talk about you going through formal education, coming out the other side, because methinks you're hiding your light under a bushel. Artistically, you were gifted.
Yeah, I mean, Gran always used to think I was, and so did my mum. She always had paintings that I did framed in the house, and Gran did as well. I'd commissioned a few paintings as well, and when I was a teenager, which I was proud of. So yeah, it's kind of something that I wish I'd have been able to carry on with, but circumstances as they were, I didn't. But hopefully I'll go back to it one day.
Tell me about the circumstances then that led to you moving away from formal education. And let's face it, at this point, with a good cluster of GCSEs in one hand, A-levels in another, arguably you should have been flying at this point. Yeah.
I went to art college at Carlisle and I didn't really enjoy it. Funnily enough, at that point, I was offered a full-time job in the civil service, which I'd never ever dreamt of doing. But something told me to take it, so I did. And that was the job centre then. It's now DWP. And it was actually where my mum used to work. When it was the old unemployment office.
Almost coming full circle then.
Yeah. Several people, senior managers that were in there, my mum worked with, so they knew me. So I kind of felt at home there because it was the building that she was in, and I was with the people that she worked with and she loved. So yeah, I was there for 6 years and then transferred to DEFRA.
It's interesting you talk about working professionally in the same environment at this point in your life alongside mum. That speaks greatly about the relationship between you and your mum back then, because families working together, quite often it's a cocktail that doesn't work.
Yeah. Whilst I was kind of in between jobs, I'd finished the job centre and I'd worked at Halfords for a short time, and that's actually where I met my long-term partner. I've been with Stephen for 17 years now, and we worked together for about 18 months. And actually, we worked together really well. We never had any fallouts or anything like that. So I've nothing negative really to say about that.
Where did you meet Stephen?
Halfords.
Halfords?
Yes.
As you do. He wasn't commenting on a belt you were wearing by any chance, was he?
No, I was a garage receptionist and he was a motor mechanic.
Uh-huh.
And we met there and then we got together, and that's been it for like the last 17 years.
Can I just come back very quickly here, Vanessa, to a point, a crossroads in your life? Gifted when it came to art, very artistically bent you are, a cluster of qualifications. It was just a natural thing that you were going to go on to college and there you would study art. It didn't quite work out. Why was that?
I think, well, at that time, my mum was diagnosed with breast cancer. And obviously that was a huge shock to not only me, but everybody within the family and my mum. And I kind of thought I wanted to spend more time at home as well with her. So by going off to art college, I wouldn't be at home. So when the job offer came up to work for the job centre, I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And then I'm at home. And then Mum basically fought breast cancer for about 4 years. Never complaining, never, always smiling. You know, she just basically got on with it and was just amazing to watch. When she was in and out of hospital in palliative care in the Henderson Suite at West Cumberland, all the nurses love her. I mean, they still know her today. And actually, a lady called Chris Gale, who I previously worked with for DEFRA, was her a volunteer carer in the Henderson Suite, and she built up a great relationship with my mum. And when I came to work for DEFRA, I remembered Chris, and Chris remembered me, and she said, you know, your mum was just a shining light, and because of your mum's death, she couldn't do any more volunteering. She had to stop. It was too painful and upsetting for her. So that was the kind of light that my mum would shed onto complete strangers, really, who, you know, loved her.
I've got one or two notes here that you very, very kindly put together for me prior to joining us here on BBC Radio Cumbria. The loss of your mum, this relentless disease, as you describe it, a 4-year battle that your mum undertook here. You describe her during that 4-year period, despite the pain, the cancer spreading into her bones. You talk of this selflessness, never complaining, always concerned about others before herself. The loss of your mum, to say devastating, is an understatement. In fact, a line you've put down here, the light of my life has gone.
Yeah, that's right.
It must have been desperately hard, not only for you. There's Dad in the equation.
Yeah.
There's a younger brother and sister. You've spoken earlier this week about you being the eldest of the 3 siblings and always being the responsible one, always being there for them. It couldn't have been easy at this point.
No, it certainly wasn't. And it was almost kind of like a nightmare. And it just seemed as if you were existing and not living at that point. My sister, Lindsay, she became pregnant at a young age, and she had her son, Ben. My mum got to meet her grandson, but sadly, Mum lost her life. I think Ben was about 5 months old. But she did get to meet him. But yeah, it was a very hard time. But I think with the birth of Ben, it eased the pain a lot, really did.